frankly.
I don't. No, I don't.
No cheating.
I do not know. I
Well-
don't remember.
Under the principles of federalism and limited government, and this is a perfect example, this is U.S. Constitution, North Carolina Constitution, the state governments retain most of the sovereign authority that we the people lent to government. And the federal government that the people and the states collaborated on creating to protect the common good of all and the rights of all as a nation are in here. 7 articles, double down, 14. The Bill of Rights. We say our rights, you look at the Declaration of Independence, it's very clear where our rights come from. Where do they come from?
The Bill of Rights?
Where do
Or
our rights come
natural
from?
God-given rights?
They come from our Creator,
Yes.
God.
That's right.
They don't come from man.
That's right.
So you're probably familiar with which of the amendments to the Constitution, what we refer to as amendments, are the Bill of Rights. Which ones are they? The Bill of Rights in the federal Constitution are which ones?
Freedom of religion?
No. Now, what are they?
You want to know what number?
I'm going to start with just the basics.
Okay.
Because there's 7 articles in the federal Constitution. Because you're going to, even as a state office holder, Article 6, Clause 3 requires you to take an oath to support and defend this one, too. So, this is also put into place to protect our rights and put restrictions on that federal government that we, the people in the states, created. The first 10 amendments kind of lay out, just in case y'all forgot, what our rights are. The Bill of Rights is 10, right? Which one of the articles in our state constitution, because you're going to take an oath to support and defend this as well, since you're as a candidate, you're coming to me saying, look, trust me, I want this job, and I'm going to be watching your back while you're out doing the normal things of life. Your job, your family, educating your kids, your pursuits of happiness. So I need to get a warm fuzzy that you know what my rights are and where they come from. I want to know that at the very least, let's just get the basic foundation. Where will I find my rights in here? The delineation of what they are. Which article?
I can't tell you that. I'm sorry.
It's the most important part. It's Article 1.
Article 1.
When North Carolina, and Mr. Kennedy referred to it earlier today, that North Carolina was the only one that refused to ratify without a Bill of Rights. When North Carolina, being the Southern gentlemen that they were, they didn't just reject it, they postponed the vote. And what they sent back to Washington wasn't a Bill of Rights, it was a declaration. They were declaring we had rights. 20 of them, not just 10. So there was a double down there too. 10 for the national government to be aware of, and there's 20 declarations, 20 rights that North Carolina declared, and they sent an additional 26 proposed amendments for consideration as part of the Bill of Rights,
Sure.
as a reminder. But if you repealed any of those, you repealed the Bill of Rights, you repealed our Declaration of Rights, would it change anything about our rights?
No.
Because they didn't come from the government,
That's right.
they
Exactly.
come from our Creator.
Excuse me, Jeff, let me interject one thing here, and for the good purpose of the video and everything, this is not for on the spot, and I know you kind of feel that right now, but it's to show what happens, that most 99.9% of our candidates have no idea about this.
That's right.
And so this is for
This is a teaching
education as well as for vetting of April. We want people to understand this stuff, that it's, they just don't do it. I mean, that's the average candidate, doesn't read, doesn't study, doesn't know beans about it.
Right, and we
Right,
get,
and I don't mind, honestly.
I'm not-
I mind not being able to answer your question.
we're-
My father was a history major when he was in college, and he had a passion for history. My son has a passion for history. I enjoy history in the sense that it helps me understand where we came from. but I'm not
I
a
didn't understand how,
historian.
I didn't understand
Right.
how important history was either.
Right, exactly, until you started to see how history is changing or it's being deleted from your very eyes, right? I always thought it was going to continue to be there forever, and I could always refer back to it at a later point when I needed to.
Right.
But in reality, that's all being changed.
So if you're considering being a public servant
Sure,
to protect my rights, and this isn't just you, this is any, and we go to candidate forums,
I can understand.
and
your
people
concern.
ask feel-good questions, and the candidates give feel-good answers.
Mhm.
And I don't, no disrespect to you or any candidate for public office, but I don't care how you feel about any specific issue.
Sure.
I care about, will you keep your word? Do you believe our rights come from the same place? Do we share the principles and values? I do want to understand that, be on the same page on that.
And if you don't know it, we look it up and study to find out the right answer.
Right, and that's
Well,
what Jefferson said.
I think I would even go
informed
beyond that.
discretion.
I would definitely put in place somebody who can help me with that, because clearly that is a weakness that I have. And when you are trying to do something right, you're not going to be the expert in all things, right? So you
Right.
have to know which resources, where to go to get that information, and they have to be people with whom you have built a relationship with that you trust, that are
Right.
doing, or are going to advise you based on a similar ideology, basically.
Right. So basically, when candidates come, if you want to be a candidate, understand the rules of engagement, and these are the rule books. And that we the people are the employers, and that the public servants, they're the employees. And that if you work for an aerospace company, I did too, and I knew what you meant by Six Sigma.
But
You had rules, there's rules, there's company policies.
Right.
And if you, for that aerospace company, failed to uphold the company policy, you're gone.
Exactly.
And we the people need to hold our public servants, our employees, to that same litmus test. Here's the employee handbook. You fail to uphold it after being your discretion informed, you're gone.
Mhm.
Whether we like it or not. My rights are more important than our friendship if we had one, yeah.
Sure.
And we don't know each other.
I liken this to my 20 years of experience in the automotive industry, and then when I switched over to the aerospace industry, thinking that my skill set was transferable, which it was, but my knowledge was completely different. And I had to learn about the aerospace industry and how my skills would complement that industry. It's not just a matter of transferring from one to the other and expecting it to be 100% conversion, because it doesn't work that way. And there's some things that you can only learn by being on the job.
Yes, ma'am. That's the basics.
Sure.
And when we the people trying to elect good people to protect our rights, find that their either skill set or their knowledge isn't where it should be, we should try and help them.
Sure.
I tell my state representative and state senator and my congressman that if you need my help, come let me know. I'll come stand beside you, behind you, or in front of you if need be.
But we have people in office right now who don't believe that they need help, and therefore they're going to make those decisions unilaterally. And that's not what this is about.
Well, if the decision is you know, when Don was setting up the Citizens Constitutional Caucus, and Councilor Fry and myself were on the advisory council for the caucus, we talked about, we're going to get into issues. And I said we should get into, stay focused on the principles and the values, because there's a million issues. But if we can come to a meeting of the minds on the principles and values, when we're vetting candidates and helping develop candidates and educate them, then we won't have to hold their hand through every decision they make.
Sure.
Dr. Taylor, who runs the National Center for Constitutional Studies, when I took their course, I thought they were going to teach me the Constitution. He runs a charter school out in Mesa, Arizona, and his students have to be able to recite and explain the 28 Principles of Liberty before they can graduate. And I said, they don't have to take a test on the Constitution? He said, no. If you understand the principles of liberty, every decision you run into, you'll know whether it's right or wrong. And then you can come to the organic documents to find either the validation or the protection of, for that principle or value. And the principles are more important than even the paperwork.
And so we can send those out to people, you have those written down someplace?
The 28 Principles of
28
Liberty.
Principles.
They're on the
that
internet.
within the 5,000 year leap.
Yeah.
But one thing I would like to mention is that I was raised in a very Christian family, and I was always a big believer of the Ten Commandments,
Mhm.
right? And so I always believed that if I followed the Ten Commandments, that that would be enough to govern my life. That's only my life.
Right.
And so the Constitution is actually there to help me govern for other people's lives, if I'm elected to represent other people.
Well, I see the counselor's getting antsy here. My basis got complicated.
Now the fun begins.
So those were the easy questions.
Yes, thank you
Let's
so
turn it over
much.
to our general counsel, Mr. Fry.
Oh, these aren't that hard.
I failed 9 out of 10 of them when he gave them to me, so no, they're easy, April, no problem.
Well, they are very easy. And, you know, we have 200 years of case law that says that the Constitution was written for the average citizen or the average voter. And so what I tell people is, number one, there's no reason for your public servants not to know and understand it. And number two, it's not that heavy of a burden, for one thing. And then if you have somebody telling you that it's complicated, you need to talk to an attorney or a judge or a law professor, they're pulling the wool over their eyes. And that's what's going on. They're having the wool pulled over their eyes.
Sure.
Also, something I learned after law school that you need to be aware of is there are really two kinds of law related to the Constitution. The kind that I initially learned over a period of about a year was constitutional law. That's anything the Supreme Court says it is. And then there's the law of the Constitution. That's what's in this book. So you have to keep that in mind. And this is just in furtherance of what Jeff was saying. It's to find out if